workers and miners and farmers, and none of them belonged in a palace. Marcus Cole stood at the back of the group, and he said nothing while the others pushed forward. He was tall and broad, and his hand showed the marks of hard labor. His file said he was a construction worker from a mining station near Jupiter. There was nothing special about him at all. Seraphins almost dismissed him without a word, but then she looked into his eyes, and she stopped. There was something strange in those eyes, and something quiet and something deep. He looked at her the way a man looks at a storm on the horizon. There was respect and there was caution, but there was no fear. She called him forward, and the other candidates muttered in confusion. Marcus walked to the foot of her throne, and he bowed exactly as the protocol required. Not too deep, and not too shallow, and not too long, and not too short. Someone had trained him well, or he was a very quick learner. Seraphine asked him why he had come, and he said he wanted to see the stars. She asked him what he thought of her empire, and he said it was bigger than anything he had imagined. She asked him if he was afraid of her, and he smiled for the first time and said he was afraid of many things, but not of her. Assassination attempt happened 3 seconds later. The doors burst open, and 12 figures in black armor rushed into the throne room. They moved fast, and they moved together, and they carried weapons that glowed with killing light. Seraphine's guards were caught off guard, and 2 of them fell before they could draw their swords. The queen reached for the emergency beacon on her throne, but a blast struck the armrest and destroyed it. She was going to die, and she knew it, and she felt strangely calm about the whole thing. Then Marcus Cole moved. He moved faster than any human should be able to move. He crossed the distance to the first assassin in less than a heartbeat, and his hand closed around the man's throat. The assassin's neck snapped with a sound like breaking wood. Marcus took the dead man's weapon and fired twice, and 2 more assassins fell. He did not aim, and he did not hesitate, and he did not miss. The remaining assassins turned their weapons on him, and they fired. Together, Marcus twisted his body in ways that should have been impossible, and the blasts passed through empty air. He killed them one by one, and he killed them quickly, and he killed them without a single wasted motion. When the last body hit the floor, the throne room was silent. Marcus stood in the middle of the carnage, and his chest rose and fell with steady breath. There was no panic in his eyes, and no excitement, and no satisfaction. Looked like a man who had finished a simple task. Seraphine stared at him, and her heart pounded in her chest. She had seen warriors fight, and she had seen killers work, but she had never seen anything like this. This was not training, and this was not skill. This was something else entirely. Marcus looked at his hands, and then he looked at the queen, and he shrugged. He said he got lucky. He said the assassins were not very good. He said he had learned a few things in the colonies where life was hard. Seraphine did not believe a single word, but she found that she did not care. She had asked the universe for a sign, and the universe had answered. She chose Marcus Cole that very day, and she did not explain her reasons to anyone. Advisors protested, and the generals complained, and the nobles whispered in dark corners. A common laborer could not stand beside the queen. A human with no status and no wealth and no family could not father the heir to 12 star systems. Seraphine listened to all of their objections, and then she told them to prepare the wedding. She did not know what Marcus Cole really was, and she did not know where he had come from, but she knew that he had saved her life without hesitation and without asking for reward. She knew that he looked at her like she was a person and not a prize, and she knew that whatever secrets he carried, they were secrets worth discovering. Far away on a dark station that did not appear on any map, a group of men in gray uniforms watched the footage from the throne room. They watched Marcus kill 12 trained assassins in less than 30 seconds. They watched the queen choose him as her husband. They smiled at each other, and they nodded in satisfaction. Project Prometheus was proceeding exactly as planned. The weapon had reached its target, and the weapon had earned the target's trust. Now they only had to Wait, Marcus Cole had died 7 years ago in a laboratory accident that was not an accident at all. The man who wore his face was not a man at all. He was humanity's secret weapon against the alien threat. His bones were made of metal that could reshape. Itself, his blood was full of tiny machines that could turn his body into a killing tool. His memories were stolen from a dead man's brain and programmed into his mind. He had one mission and one purpose: get close to the alien queen and wait for orders. The orders would come, and when they did, Marcus would kill the queen and her empire. He would not hesitate, and he would not fail because he was not capable of hesitation or failure. He was a weapon, and weapons did not have feelings or doubts or fears. At least that was what his creators believed. Marcus stood in his new quarters in the Crystal Palace, and he looked out at the alien sky. The stars were different here, and the colors were wrong, and the air tasted like flowers he did not recognize. He thought about the queen and the way she had looked at him after the attack. She had looked at him like he was real. She had looked at him like he mattered. Something stirred in his chest, and he did not know what to call it. Pushed the feeling aside, and he focused on his mission. He was a weapon, and he had a job to do. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else could matter. The wedding was the largest celebration the Empire had seen in 100 years. Ships came from every corner of Valtteri space, and they filled the sky above the capital like a swarm of silver birds. The people needed hope, and the queen gave them a wedding. Marcus stood at the altar in robes of white and gold, and he spoke vows in a language he had learned in 3 days. The words felt strange on his tongue, but he said them perfectly because his programming would not allow mistakes. Serafini stood beside him in a gown made of living light. She was beautiful in a way that humans did not have words for her. Skin was pale silver, and her eyes were deep purple, and her hair moved like smoke in a gentle wind when she took his hand. Her touch was warm and soft. Marcus felt something flicker in his chest again, and he pushed it down again. The ceremony ended, and the celebration began. And Marcus played his part without error. He smiled when he was supposed to smile, and he laughed when he was supposed to laugh. He danced with the queen, and he ate strange food, and he shook hands with creatures he'd been trained to kill. By the end of the night, he was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with his body. Pretending to be human was harder than he had expected. The weeks that followed were even harder. Seraphim was not what his files had described. The report said she was cold and cruel and hungry for conquest. The report said she had ordered the destruction of 3 human colonies. During the border wars, the report said she saw humans as insects beneath her feet. The reports were wrong about everything. Srafan spent her mornings in the medical wings of the palace. She walked among the sick and the dying, and she held their hands, and she remembered their names. The plague had spread beyond the royal family, and it was killing common people now. There was still no cure, and there was still no hope. But Seraphine refused to stop searching. She brought scientists from distant worlds, and she spent fortunes on research that produced nothing. She cried in private when another patient died, and she smiled in public. So her people would not lose faith. Marcus watched her, and he learned things that his programming had no category. For he learned that she was afraid all the time, and that she hid her fear behind a mask of strength. Learned that she blamed herself for every death, even though the plague was not her fault. He learned that she had never wanted to be queen, and that she had become one only because everyone else was gone. She asked him about Earth and about his childhood and about the life he had lived before he came to her world. Marcus told her stories that belonged to the real Marcus Cole. He told her about swimming in cold lakes and climbing tall trees and watching storms roll across the plains. The memories were not his, but they felt real when he spoke them out loud. Seraphine listened with wonder in her eyes. She had never seen a lake or a tree or a storm. Her world was crystal and light, an endless sky. She asked him to describe rain, and he told her about water falling from clouds. She laughed like a child, and she said it sounded like magic. Marcus found himself wanting to show her ring. He found himself wanting to take her to Earth and walk with her through a forest. He found himself wanting things that weapons were not supposed to want. Nights were the hardest part. They shared a chamber because the Velthri expected them to, and because producing an heir was the whole point. Marcus had been prepared for this, and his body could perform any function required. But Seraphine did not rush. She sat with him in the moonlight, and she talked about her fears and her hopes and her dreams. She told him about her mother, who had been kind, and her father, who had been distant, and her sisters, who had been her best friends. She told him about the day they all died, and about the silence that followed. She asked him to tell her something true, and Marcus did not know what to say. Everything about him was a lie. His name was a lie, and his memories were lies, and his feelings were probably lies too. He told her that he was afraid of the dark. It was the only true thing he could think of. Seraphine did not laugh at him. She took his hand, and she said that she would be his light. That night they slept side by side, and Marcus did not activate his defense systems. For the first time since his creation, he felt safe. The months passed, and Marcus fell deeper into a role that was becoming less of a role. He learned the language of her people, and he learned the customs of her court. He made friends with servants and guards and advisors who had hated him at first. He played games with children in the palace gardens, and he helped old men carry heavy loads. He was becoming the man he was pretending to be. His handlers noticed the change. They sent messages through hidden channels, and the messages were full of warnings. They reminded him of his purpose, and they reminded him of his programming. They told him that sentiment was a malfunction, and that love was impossible for something like. And Marcus read the messages, and he deleted them, and he told himself that nothing had changed. He was still a weapon, and he still had a mission. He would kill the queen when the order came, and he would feel nothing when he did it. But late at night, when Seraphine slept beside him, he watched her breathe. He watched the gentle rise and fall of her chest. He watched the silver light play across her face, and he wondered what it would feel like to be real. The anniversary of their wedding came faster than Marcus expected. Seraphine prepared a celebration, and she prepared a gift. She worked on it in secret, and she smiled mysteriously when he asked about it. The celebration was small and private and perfect. They danced alone in a garden of crystal flowers. They ate food that Seraphine had prepared with her own hands. They talked about the year that had passed and the years that lay ahead. Then Seraphine gave him her gift. It was a small device that fit in the palm of his hand. She pressed a button, and light burst from it and filled the air around them. Stars appeared everywhere, and they were the stars of Earth. Every constellation was there, from Orion to the Big Dipper to the Southern Cross. Seraphine had spent months learning the human sky so she could give it to him. She said she wanted him to never feel far from home. Marcus looked at the stars, and he looked at his wife, and something inside him cracked open. The feeling rushed through him like a flood, and he could not push it down. He loved her. He loved her, and he was going to kill her, and the weight of that truth was more than he could bear. Seraphine saw the tears on his face, and she thought they were tears of joy. She held him, and she whispered that she loved him too. Marcus held her back, and he said nothing because there was nothing he could say. The order would come soon, and he would have to choose the weapon or the man, the mission or the love, the lie or the truth. He held his wife beneath the stars of Earth, and he wished that he was real. The order arrived on a cold morning when the twin moons hung low in the sky. Marcus was alone in his quarters, and the message appeared on a device hidden in his body. The words burned into his mind like fire. Operation Decapitation was approved. He was to eliminate the queen during the festival of twin moons. He was to make it look like an accident or like the work of rebels. He was to disappear into the chaos and return to Earth as a hero. The mission was simple, and the reward was great. He would be given a real life and a real identity and a real future. He would be free of the programming and free of the handlers and free of the weapon. He had become all he had to do was kill the woman who loved him. Marcus sat in silence, and he felt his body preparing for the task. His glands began producing toxins that could kill a Valkyrie in seconds. His bones shifted and hardened for combat. His mind sharpened and focused and pushed away everything soft. The weapon was waking up, and the man was fading away. He stood and he walked to the window, and he looked out at the world he had come to know. Crystal spires caught the light of the moons and scattered it like diamonds. The gardens bloomed with flowers that sang in the wind. The people moved through the streets below, and they laughed and they loved and they lived. He was going to take all of this away from them, was going to kill their queen and destroy their hope and leave them with nothing. The weapon did not care about any of this. The weapon had no feelings and no doubts and no regrets. But Marcus was not just a weapon anymore. The Festival of Twin Moons was the holiest night in the Valkyrie calendar. The queen would appear before her people, and she would bless them, and she would dance beneath the sky. Her guards would carry ceremonial weapons instead of real ones. She would be vulnerable and exposed and perfect for killing Marcus. Dressed in his finest clothes, and he walked to the festival chamber. Every step brought him closer to the moment of truth. Every breath reminded him of what he was about to lose. He entered the chamber, and he saw Seraphine standing in a pool of moonlight. She wore a gown of deep blue that made her look like a piece of the sky. Her hair was woven with silver threads that caught the light like stars. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. She smiled when she saw him, and she held out her hand. Marcus walked to her, and he took her hand, and he felt the warmth of her skin. His toxin glands were full and ready. His targeting systems had locked onto her throat. One touch, and she would die. One touch, and his mission would be complete. One touch, and he would be free. Seraphine looked into his eyes, and her smile faded. She saw something there that she did not understand. She asked him what was wrong. Marcus opened his mouth to say nothing, and the lie would not come. He tried to speak, and his voice failed him. He tried to smile, and his face would not obey. The weapon was ready, but the man was not. Seraphine stepped closer, and she touched his face with gentle fingers. She asked him to tell her the truth. She said she could see that he was carrying something heavy. She said she wanted to help him carry it. Marcus felt the cracks inside him spreading wider. The truth was pushing up through the lies like a plant through stone. He could not stop it, and he was not sure he wanted to. Told her everything. He told her that his name was not really Marcus Cole. He told her that the real Marcus Cole had died in a laboratory 7 years ago. He told her that he was a weapon created by humans to destroy her empire. He told her about the metal in his bones and the machines in his blood. He told her about the handlers who controlled him and the orders he had received. He told her that he was supposed to kill her tonight. He told her that he had tried to do it, but he could not. Told her that he loved her, and that his love was the only true thing about him. When he finished speaking, the chamber was silent. Seraphine stood before him with an expression he could not read. Her eyes were wide, and her face was pale, and her hands trembled at her sides. Marcus waited for her to call the guards. He waited for her to scream or cry or run away. He waited for the ending he deserved. Seraphine stepped forward, and she wrapped her arms around him. She held him tight against her chest, and she whispered 3 words. She said she knew. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. He pulled back, and he looked at her face, and he saw no surprise there. He saw only sadness and love and something that looked like relief. Seraphine told him that she had discovered the truth 3 months ago. The Valkyrie medical systems had scanned him during a routine checkup. They had found the metal in his bones and the machines in his blood. They had found the programming in his brain and the weapons in his body. She had known what he was for months, and she had said nothing. Marcus asked her why she had not killed him. He asked her why she had not told anyone. He asked her why she had kept living with a monster who was designed to destroy her. Seraphine took his face in her hands, and she made him look at her. She said that she had watched him. She said that she had seen him carry sick children to the medical bay. She said that she had seen him listen to old advisors with patience and respect. She said that she had seen him laugh with servants and play with animals and cry at sad stories. She said that whatever he had been built to be, he was becoming something else. She said that she had fallen in love with the man, not the weapon. She said that she had been waiting for him to choose Marcus, did not understand. He asked her what she meant by choose. Seraphine smiled through her tears. She said that everyone had a choice. She said that he could follow his programming and kill her now. She said that he could return to Earth and claim his reward. She said that she would not stop him and she would not blame him, or he could choose to be the man she had fallen in love with. He could choose to stay and fight for something better. He could choose to believe that he was more than what they had made him. Marcus looked at his wife, and he saw her courage and her faith. She was offering him a gift that no one had ever offered him before. She was offering him the chance to be real. He thought about the orders and the handlers and the mission, thought about the fleet gathering at the edge of Valtteri space. He thought about the war that was coming, whether he killed the queen or not. Thought about the life he could have if he just did what he was told. Then he thought about Seraphine and the way she looked at him. He thought about the star she had given him and the love she had shown him. He thought about the man he was becoming and the future they could build together. He made his choice. He chose love. He chose to be real. Marcus took Seraphine's hands and he told her that he was done being a weapon. He told her that he wanted to be her husband. He told her that he would fight for her and her people and their future. He told her that he did not know if he could defeat the humans who had made him, but he would die trying. Seraphine kissed him and her. Tears mixed with his outside the festival chamber. The twin moons shone bright inside. Two people held each other and prepared for war. The night after his confession, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in the darkness, and he listened to Seraphine breathe beside him. She trusted him enough to sleep next to him, even though she knew what he was. She trusted him enough to love him, even though he had been sent to kill her. He did not understand how she could be so brave. He asked her in the morning, and she smiled her sad smile. She told him about the night she had spent wondering if he would murder her in her sleep. She told him about the fear that had lived in her chest like a cold stone. She told him about the argument she had with herself about whether to have him destroyed. She had guards ready at all times. She had poisons hidden in her chambers. She had escape routes planned and ships waiting, but she had never used any of them. She said that she had watched him and she had learned him. She said that weapons did not hesitate. Before killing, she said that weapons did not cry at sad stories or laugh at silly jokes. She said that weapons did not look at their targets with longing and love. She believed that whatever the humans had put inside him, there was something else there too. Something that was fighting to be free, something that wanted to be more than metal and programming. She had decided to bet her life on that something. Marcus asked her what would have happened if she had been wrong. Seraphine shrugged and said that she would be dead. She said that she had been ready to die since the plague took her family. She said that death did not frighten her anymore. What frightened her was living without hope. Marcus took her hand, and he promised that he would never hurt her. He promised that he would protect her with every weapon in his body. He promised that he would fight the people who had made him. Seraphine squeezed his hand and said that she knew, but she also knew that a fight was coming, and they needed to prepare. The Shadow Council would not accept failure. They had spent billions creating Project Prometheus. They had spent years planning this operation. They would not simply shrug and walk away when their weapon went silent. Seraphine called a secret meeting with her most trusted advisors. There were only 5 of them, and they had served her family for generations. She told them everything about Marcus, and they reacted as expected. 2 of them drew weapons and tried to kill him on the spot. 1 of them fainted. 1 of them started praying to gods. Marcus did not recognize. Only the oldest advisor remained calm. His name was Torvik, and he had white hair and eyes like deep wells. He studied Marcus for a long moment, and then he nodded. He said that he had suspected something was wrong from the beginning. He said that no human moved the way Marcus had moved during the assassination attempt. He said that he was glad the truth was finally out. Orvik asked Marcus what he knew about the human attack plans. Marcus told them everything his programming contained. He told them about the fleet gathering at the edge of Vothari space. He told them about the weapons designed to crack planetary shields. He told them about the troop transports carrying soldiers trained to fight. Vothari had told them about the Shadow Council and their plan to conquer the Empire. He told them about the other weapons like him that might already be in place. The advisors listened with growing horror. They had known that humans were dangerous, but they had not known this. The war they had prepared for was nothing compared to the war that was coming. Seraphine asked Marcus if the humans could be stopped. Marcus was honest with her. He said that the Vothari had better ships and better technology, but the humans had numbers, and they had desperation, and they had weapons like him. The war would be brutal and long, and many people would die. Victory was possible, but it was not certain. Seraphine nodded and said that possible was enough. She ordered her advisors to begin preparing the defense. She ordered them to search for other weapons that might be hiding in the Empire. She ordered them to strengthen the shields and arm the fleet and train the soldiers, and she ordered them to keep Marcus's secret. If the humans learned that their weapon had turned against them, they might accelerate their plans better. To let them think everything was going according to schedule. Better to let them believe that Marcus was still waiting for his moment. The preparations took weeks, and Marcus worked harder than anyone. He trained Vothari soldiers in human tactics. He designed defenses against weapons he had been built to use. He identified weaknesses in his own programming that could be exploited. He became the Empire's greatest asset instead of its greatest threat, but he also struggled with questions that had no answers. He did not know who he really was. The memories in his head belonged to a dead man. Feelings in his heart might be nothing but programming. The choices he made might be illusions created by his creators. Was he really choosing to love Seraphine? Or was this just another mission? Was he really becoming a person, or was he just following different orders? He shared these fears with Seraphine late one night. She listened without interrupting, and then she asked him a question. She asked him if it mattered. She said that humans struggled with the same questions. They wondered if their feelings were real or just chemicals in their brains. They wondered if their choices were free or just the result of their upbringing. They wondered if they were truly themselves or just products of their circumstances. No one could answer these questions with certainty, but that did not stop them from living and loving and fighting for what they believed. Marcus thought about this for a long time. He realized that Seraphine was right, could spend his whole existence questioning whether his feelings were real, or he could accept them and act on them and see where they led. Chose to accept them. He chose to believe that his love was real, even if he could not prove it. Chose to fight for the people he cared about, even if his caring was programmed. He chose to be Marcus Cole, the husband and protector, not Project Prometheus, the weapon and destroyer. The human fleet arrived sooner than anyone expected. They came out of fold space like a storm of metal and fire. Hundreds of ships filled the sky above Vothari. Prime weapons powered up and shields activated, and the war began. Marcus stood beside Seraphine on the bridge of her flagship. He looked at the human fleet and he saw his creators coming to reclaim their property, saw the world he had been built to serve coming to destroy the world he had chosen to love. Seraphine took his hand and she did not let go. She asked him if he was ready. Marcus looked at his wife and he smiled. He said that he had been ready his whole life. He just had not known what he was ready for until now. First human missiles launched toward the Vothari fleet. The war for the future had begun. The Battle of the Vothari Threshold began with fire and ended with hope. Marcus had never seen so many ships in one place. The human fleet stretched across the sky like a wall of steel and death behind them. The stars disappeared and the darkness deepened in front of them. The Valkyrie fleet waited with weapons ready. Seraphine commanded from her flagship, and Marcus stood at her side. He fed her information about human tactics and human weaknesses. He told her where to strike and when to retreat, and how to survive. The Valkyrie admirals did not trust him at first. They saw a human giving orders, and they wanted to throw him out the airlock. But Seraphine trusted him, and that was enough. The first wave of human ships attacked with everything they had. Missiles and lasers and plasma cannons tore through the void. Valkyrie shields flickered and sparked, and some of them failed. Ships exploded in silent bursts of light. Thousands died in the first minute of the battle. Marcus watched his own people kill the people he had chosen to protect. He felt something twist in his chest, and he did not try to push it down. This was the cost of his choice, and he would carry it forever. He told Seraphine to order a flanking maneuver. He told her to target the human command ships in the rear. He told her that human admirals were arrogant and would not expect a direct assault. Seraphine gave the orders, and the Valkyrie fleet moved like a single creature. They swept around the human formation, and they struck from behind. Human ships crumbled under the assault, and human admirals screamed for reinforcements. The battle shifted, and the Valkyrie began to win, but Marcus knew that winning the battle was not enough. The Shadow Council would simply send more ships. They would send more weapons and more soldiers and more death. The war would continue until one side was completely destroyed. He needed to end the war, not just win the battle. He had an idea, but it was dangerous, and it might not work. He asked Seraphine for permission to try something crazy. She looked at him, and she saw the determination in his eyes. She asked him what he had in mind. Marcus told her that he was going to broadcast a message to every human ship. He was going to tell them the truth about Project Prometheus. He was going to tell them about the Shadow Council and their illegal experiments. He was going to tell them that their government had been lying to them. Some of them would not believe him, and some of them would not care. Some of them might listen, and some of them might choose differently. Seraphine nodded, and she gave him access to the communication systems. Marcus opened a channel to the human fleet, and he began to speak. He told them his name was Marcus Cole, and he was Project Prometheus. He told them that he had been created in secret by men who served no elected government. He told them about the laboratory where he had been born. He told them about the other weapons like him who had been sent across the galaxy. Told them about the Shadow Council and their plan to provoke a war. He told them that the Valkyrie had not attacked first. He told them that the border conflicts had been staged. He told them that millions had died because a handful of powerful men wanted more power. He told them that they had a choice. They could follow illegal orders from criminals who had betrayed their own species, or they could stop and think and demand answers from their leaders. The fleet went silent. Ships stopped firing and held their positions. Marcus could imagine the chaos on those bridges. Captains arguing with admirals and soldiers, questioning officers. Some of them were calling home to check his stories. Some of them were pulling up classified files they had never been allowed to see. Some of them were making the same choice he had made. The first human ship to stand down was a cruiser called the Redemption. Its captain broadcast a message saying that he would not fire another shot until he got answers. A second ship followed, and then a third, and then a dozen more. The fleet began to fracture as captains chose sides. Half of them believed Marcus and demanded an investigation. Half of them called him a traitor and continued the attack. The battle became something different. Human ships fought human ships while Valkyrie watched in confusion. Brothers killed brothers and friends destroyed friends. It was terrible, and it was necessary, and Marcus watched it all. The Shadow Council's command ship tried to flee. It turned away from the battle and powered up its full drive. Marcus tracked it with sensors that no human ship could match. He asked Seraphine for a fast shuttle, and she gave him her own personal craft. He launched into the chaos of the battle, and he flew toward. The fleeing ship weapons fire surrounded him, and explosions lit up the void. He dodged and weaved and pushed the shuttle beyond its limits. Reached the command ship just as its full drive began to activate. He crashed into its hull, and his body absorbed. The impact, he tore through metal and wire and fought his way to the bridge. The men who had created him were waiting. They had weapons and guards, and they expected him to be a good little tool. They expected him to remember his programming and obey. They pointed guns at his head and ordered him to stand down. Marcus looked at them, and he felt no fear. He told them that they had made a mistake. They had built a weapon, and they had expected it to stay a weapon forever. But they had also given him human memories and human emotions. They had given him the capacity to love and the capacity to choose. They had created something more than a machine, and now they had to face the consequences. The guards fired, and Marcus moved faster than their eyes could follow. He disabled them one by one with precise strikes that broke bones but spared lives. He wanted them alive to face justice. He wanted the galaxy to see what they had done. The Shadow Council leaders tried to bargain and beg and threaten. They offered him wealth and power and a new identity. They offered him anything he wanted if he would just let them go. Marcus told them that he already had everything he wanted. He had a wife who loved him and a cause worth fighting for. He had a chance to be a real person instead of a weapon. He did not need anything they could give him. He took them prisoner, and he brought them back to face trial. The war ended not with a final battle, but with a reckoning. The legitimate human government was horrified by what the Shadow Council had done. They arrested the conspirators, and they opened negotiations with the Veltharthi, apologized for the deaths and the destruction and the lies. Peace that followed was fragile but real. Marcus stood trial for his own existence. Some people called him a hero, and some people called him a monster. Some people said he should be honored, and some people said he should be destroyed. Seraphine testified in his defense. She told the court about the man she had married. She told them about his kindness and his courage and his capacity for love. She told them that he had saved her life and her empire and her hope. The court deliberated for 3 days. They decided that Marcus Cole was not a weapon or a tool or a thing. He was a person with rights and responsibilities. He was pardoned for crimes he had been programmed to commit. He was free to live his life as he chose. 5 years passed, and the galaxy healed slowly. The plague finally yielded to a cure that Veltharthi and human scientists discovered together. Trade routes opened between the two civilizations. Children grew up in a universe where peace was possible. Marcus and Seraphine welcomed their daughter on a morning when both moons hung in the sky. She had human eyes and Veltharthi silver skin. She had something new in her genetic code that neither species had ever seen. She was the first of a new kind of life. Marcus held her in arms that had been designed to kill. He watched her tiny fingers wrap around his thumb. He felt tears on his face, and he did not try to stop them. Seraphine leaned against his shoulder and asked him what he was thinking. Marcus looked at his wife and his daughter and his future. He remembered the question she had asked him long ago. What are you? He finally had an answer. He was a husband who would love his wife until the stars burned out. He was a father who would protect his daughter with everything he had. He was a bridge between two worlds that had almost destroyed each other. He was Marcus Cole, not the man who had died in a laboratory 7 years ago, but the one who had chosen to live. He told Seraphine his answer, and she smiled through her tears. She said that she had known all along. She said that she had seen it in him from the very first day she had chosen him, because she believed in what he could become, and he had become everything she had hoped for. Marcus looked at the stars through the window of their chamber. He saw the constellations of Earth and the constellations of Velthar, saw a universe full of danger and possibility. He saw a future worth fighting for. He held his family close, and he felt something he had never felt before. He felt whole. He felt real. He felt home.